Hello and welcome to Indus News. Live from Islamabad, I'm Naila Shuja and these are the headlines. Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan has warned the global community that his country will give a firm response if India conducts a false flag operation. In a series of tweets, Khan said that the recent Indian attack on UN military observers along the line of control shows a complete disregard for international norms. He said India has committed 3,000 ceasefire violations this year alone, resulting in 276 casualties. In India, farmers protesting against the controversial agriculture laws are set to observe a day-long relay hunger strike on Monday. They have also decided to halt the toll collection on highways in the Haryana from the 25th of December to the 27th. In Afghanistan, at least 9 people have been killed and 20 wounded in an explosion in Kabul. The Interior Minister says that the bombing targeted a lawmaker who survived the attack. No group has claimed responsibility for the attack. The global number of coronavirus infections has topped 76 million with more than 1.86 million deaths. COVID-19 cases in the United States are nearing 18 million, with the countrywide death toll crossing 316,000. Brazil has reported over 50,000 new cases and 706 fatalities, taking the toll over 186,000. Pakistan has registered over 2,600 new cases and 80 fatalities overnight, with the death toll crossing 9,300. And in the Premier League, Sheffield United have been denied their first win of the season when Brighton scored a late equalizer to earn a 1-1 draw at the Amex Arena. They are currently placed last on the points table with 2 points from 14 games. For more news and details, stay tuned. We'll be right back after a short break. Welcome back. Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan has warned the global community that his country will give a firm response if India conducts a false flag operation. In a series of tweets, Khan said that the recent Indian attack on the UN military observers along the line of control shows a complete disregard for international norms. He said Pakistan condemned this rogue behavior by India. More in this report.
Deliberate targeting of innocent civilians by Indian troops along the line of control is not new. 27 people have been killed and nearly 250 wounded in unprovoked Indian firing this year alone. But this time around, Indian troops specifically attacked a vehicle of UN military observers when they were on their way to meet the victims of Indian firing. The observers, who remained unhurt, were evacuated by the Pakistan Army, but their vehicle sustained damage. The United Nations has confirmed that its military observers came under the attack on Friday. The next day, Pakistan summoned an Indian diplomat to protest against the targeted attack. Pakistan's permanent representative to the United Nations, Munir Akram, has now written to the Secretary General and the President of the Security Council to hold a fair investigation into the incident. In the letter, the envoy said the UN must forcefully condemn the reprehensible attack. He said Pakistan has credible information suggesting that India is planning a false flag operation to take spotlight off its internal chaos. The envoy warned that Pakistan will exercise its right to self-defense in case of any Indian misadventure.
For more on this, we're joined by Pakistan's National Security Advisor, Dr. Moeed Yusuf. Thank you for speaking to us. Dr. Moeed, Pakistan's envoy has written to the United Nations Secretary General about the recent Indian attack on the UN military observers along the line of control. Do you see any firm response from the United Nations?
You see, there are two parts to this. One, there is a self-contained move by Pakistan to write a letter to bring this issue up and to essentially ask or force the UN to implore and decide whether a country that dupes the UN Human Rights Council and the UN system for 15 years, uses fake NGOs to spread propaganda against another country, and a country that willfully fires on UN observers, marked vehicle, officers inside, does this rogue behavior behoove of a state that is about to become a non-permanent member of the Security Council? Or should the UN and the world, quite frankly, reconsider some parameters, some criteria for who can sit in that august body? If you're acting as a rogue state, if you're acting like a mafia, would you be allowed or should you be allowed to be part of that body? That's the question we've raised. Now, let's assume we don't get a firm response. What I would say is that's a tragedy for the global political scene. That's a tragedy because the very basic conscience of the world then doesn't seem to be functioning and working. The only thing the world considers is economic size of the market, how many arms India imports. And if that's the way the world is going to go, then yes, we won't receive a firm response. But we maintain the right to continue putting out our view, telling the world what the reality is, till the world itself realizes that India is a liability, not only for the region, not only for Pakistan, but also for its own partners who supposedly hope it will become the counterweight to China. In fact, it is embarrassing them every single day.
Now, Dr. Moith, Prime Minister Imran Khan has once again warned that the global community of a possible false flag operation by India. How is the country preparing to counter this?
The Prime Minister tweeted today, we had put this out publicly 2 days ago, as you know, and we've made multiple statements on this. When we have specific information, we want the enemy to know through third parties who this enemy reaches out to get support, and through the world, publicly, through the media, we know exactly what you're up to. So don't you dare try. And so I see, this kind of enemy, which is actually fairly coward, quite frankly, will not ever dare do this. But if it does, then the Prime Minister has made it very clear. Pakistan reserves the right to respond in every possible manner when it comes to defending itself.
Dr. Moith, now, as of recent, the EU NGO exposed an Indian propaganda against Pakistan by influencing global decision makers at the EU and the United Nations. But the global community seems to be very reluctant to take any action against India. What's your say on this?
You should ask the global community why they're turning a blind eye to a basic, blatant violation of international law, international norms. As I said, a state acting like a mafia. And, to their credit, the EU Parliament has ordered an internal inquiry, which I believe is ongoing now. We have reached out and written to the EU Parliament as well. We will write to others. We will reach out and look at all legal options. But at the end of the day, frankly, the EU has been wronged. The UNHRC has been wronged. People's identities have been stolen. Those are the people who should stand up and draw a line in the sand and say enough is enough. Now, if the world, again, is so consumed by making money off arms and markets, then I'm afraid this world is headed for a disaster, because if you lose your very fundamental conscience as a global community, then I'm not sure where we stop.
Dr. Moith, thank you for speaking to Indus News. Now, we're joined by Pakistan's permanent representative to the United Nations, Munir Akram. Welcome. Now, sir, the targeted Indian attack on the United Nations military observers is by far a serious violation of the international norms. What could be its repercussions for India?
Well, India is acting in a very reckless way, and this is obviously a threat to international peace and security when even the observers of the United Nations are targeted by the Indians in this way. We hope that the international community, the United Nations Secretary General and the Security Council will take full cognizance of this serious breach of India's obligations under the Security Council resolutions on Jammu and Kashmir and pronounce themselves against it. And this is the purpose of our communication, was to inform the United Nations, to ask them to fully investigate this incident, to ask India to observe the ceasefire understanding, to protect their own peacekeepers, and to strengthen the United Nations Military Observer Group, as Pakistan has been asking the UN to do. Our letter also contained a warning to India and the world community that we have intelligence about a possible false flag operation to justify another aggression against Pakistan, and we have warned the international community of India's intentions.
Mr. Akram, there has been a considerable increase in the Indian ceasefire violations along the line of control. What does India want to gain by escalating these tensions?
Well, our presumption is that India is trying to divert attention from the domestic difficulties which the Modi government is facing because of its failures on controlling the pandemic, on the farmers' protests that it is facing, on the reversals that it has faced in Ladakh. All of those are exerting, no doubt, pressure on the Modi government, who pretends to be a very strong and robust government. And its weaknesses and vulnerabilities and failures have been revealed by recent events. And, this could possibly be another attempt to divert attention by focusing its aggression against Pakistan.
Mr. Akram, thank you so much for your time. Moving on. Azad Jammu and Kashmir President Sardar Masood Khan has condemned India's move to build the first military settlement in occupied Kashmir.
In a statement, Khan said India is grabbing the lands of Kashmiris to turn the whole Jammu and Kashmir state into its colony. Over internet ban in the occupied territory, he said India is trying to push the valley into darkness, but it will not succeed in its evil designs. Meanwhile, Special Assistant to the Prime Minister on National Security, Dr. Moeed Yusuf, said India is trying to divert world's attention from its atrocities being perpetrated against Kashmiris in the occupied valley. In an interview, he said Pakistan is fully prepared to thwart any Indian aggression. Yusuf added Pakistan stands for peace, whereas India's awful face has been exposed.
In India, thousands of farmers are set to observe another day-long hunger strike from Monday against the controversial farm laws. The protesters have also decided to halt toll collection on highways in the Haryana from the 25th of December to the 27th. Tens of thousands of farmers have been camping at the Delhi border since last month, demanding the government to repeal farm laws they say favor big corporates. But the government insists that these reforms will benefit the farmers, allowing them to market their produce and boost production through private investment. Several rounds of talks between the farmers and the governments have failed to reach a breakthrough. Nepal's president has dissolved the parliament following a recommendation from the Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli's cabinet. The move follows a month-long internal rift within the ruling party. In a statement, the president's office said that the general elections will be held in 2 phases, more than a year ahead of schedule. President Bidhya Devi Bhandari offices said that the vote will be held on April 30th and 10th of May. It said that the election scheduled was recommended by the cabinet following an emergency meeting. Oli pushed for a fresh mandate after the ruling Nepal Communist Party accused him of sidelining his party in government decisions. He had led an alliance with the former Maoist rebels to a landslide victory in 2017. At least 9 people have been killed and 20 others injured in an explosion in Afghanistan's capital, Kabul. The Interior Ministry says children and women were among those victims, while the surrounding houses are severely damaged. The ministry said that the bombing targeted an Afghan lawmaker, Khan Mohammed Vardak. It said that the lawmaker survived the blast. Meanwhile, 1 person was killed and 2 others injured in an explosion in the Badakhshan province. No one has claimed responsibility for the attacks. Meanwhile, the U.S. Special Envoy Zalmay Khalilzad has urged the warring Afghan parties to reach a political agreement as soon as possible. He said that the United States stands with the people of Afghanistan in this war. In his tweet, Khalilzad condemned the Ghazni explosion, which killed 15 civilians 2 days ago at a religious gathering. He said that the intra-Afghan war has lost its legitimacy with Afghans and it should move to a quick ceasefire. The envoy said that the government and Taliban must respect the demands of their people who yearn for peace and security. It's now time for a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. More than 42,000 refugees have returned to their homes in the Nagorno-Karabakh since fighting stopped in the region. The Russian Defense Ministry said that in the past 24 hours, 306 people came back from Yerevan to Spankirt. The ministry said that the refugees' buses have been escorted on their route by patrols of the Russian peacekeepers. It added Moscow's observation posts are deployed along the contact line and to the Lashin corridor. Azerbaijan and Armenia signed the Russia-backed peace accord on the 9th of November. Thousands of Israelis gathered in West Jerusalem to protest against Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. The protests have been continuing for the last 6 months. The demonstrators carrying Israeli flags and banners demanded Netanyahu's resignation. Israel's prime minister is currently facing corruption charges, including bribery, breach of trust and fraud. He is also under fire for his poor management of COVID-19 pandemic, particularly amid the second wave. Netanyahu has dismissed the allegations, denying any wrongdoing. China's military says that the United States has severely jeopardized stability of the region by sailing through the Taiwan Strait. At a briefing, People's Liberation Army spokesperson Zhang Xunli said that the passage of the missile destroyer USS Mustin deliberately raised the heat of the Taiwan issue. He added the warships attempted to intimidate Taiwan's independence forces. Meanwhile, U.S. Navy says that its forces will continue to fly, sail, and operate anywhere in the international law allows. The United States President-elect Joe Biden has unveiled his climate and energy team. Biden described his latest picks as brilliant, qualified, tested, and barrier-busting.
United States President-elect nominated Michael Regan, the first black man to run Environmental Protection Agency. He also named New Mexico Representative Deb Haaland to be the first Native American Interior Secretary. Biden picked environmental lawyer Brenda Mallory to head the Council on Environmental Quality. If confirmed by Senate, she will be the first African American to hold the position. Former President Barack Obama's EPA Administrator Gina McCarthy will fill a new role as National Climate Advisor. Former Michigan Governor Jennifer Granholm was tipped for the position of Energy Secretary. Talking to media in his home state of Delaware, Biden said the nominees will be ready on day one.
The Biden-Harris cabinet, it will be historic. The cabinet that looks like America, that taps into the best of America, that opens doors and includes the full range of talents we have in this nation. And like the rest of the team, today's nominees are ready on day one, which is essential because we literally have no time to waste.
The United States and Mexico have committed to work on a humane strategy to regional immigration. In a phone call, President-elect Joe Biden and Mexican President Manuel López Obrador vowed to address the root causes of immigration in Central America and southern Mexico. Biden's team said that the two leaders discussed alternatives to undertaking dangerous journeys to the United States. In a statement, it said that the president-elect pledged to build the regional infrastructure and capacity to facilitate this new approach. He also stressed the need to reinvigorate bilateral cooperation on COVID-19, economy, and border security. In a tweet, Mexico's president said that both sides reaffirmed their commitment to the well-being of the two nations. U.S. President Donald Trump's hardline immigration policies have caused friction in U.S.-Mexico relationship. Ireland says it will be hard to reach a Brexit trade deal in the next 24 hours. Talking to the media, Irish Foreign Minister Simon Coveney said that the negotiations can collapse over an impasse on fishing rights. Coveney said that they will not be surprised if the fishing issue collapses the whole negotiation, while the European Parliament has called for a deal to be reached to give proper time to ratify the agreement. Brexit trade talks are facing deadlock over fishing rights, and both parties are trying to reach a possible deal within the 2 weeks' time. The global number of coronavirus infections has topped 76 million, with more than 1.68 million deaths. COVID-19 cases in the United States are nearing 18 million, with the countrywide death toll crossing 316,000. Brazil has reported over 50,000 new cases and 706 fatalities, taking the toll over 186,000. More in this report.
As the vaccines begin rolling out in the states around the world, daily COVID-19 deaths and cases are still devastating lives. In Latin America, Mexico City is suspending non-essential activities due to a surge of coronavirus infections and deaths that is quickly saturating hospitals. In the U.S., the past week has been the worst since the pandemic began. The medical system has been under a huge pressure. More than 114,000 people have been hospitalized with COVID-19, hitting a record high for the 13th day in a row. Meanwhile, Moderna has begun distributing its COVID vaccine, with trucks expected to start rolling out to more than 3,700 U.S. locations.
Distribution of Moderna vaccine has already begun. Moderna has moved vaccine from their fill-finish manufacturing sites to McKesson, who will serve as the central distributor. At McKesson distribution centers, boxes are being packed and loaded today. Trucks will begin rolling out tomorrow from FedEx and UPS, delivering vaccines and kits to the American people across the United States.
In Europe, France says its citizens can start receiving the COVID-19 vaccine developed by Pfizer in the last week of December if European Union authorities approve it next week. Scottish First Minister Nicola Sturgeon said travel between Scotland and the rest of the UK will be banned. This comes as the country grapples with a variant of the virus that scientists said is up to 70% more transmissible. Following this, British Prime Minister Boris Johnson has imposed tighter curbs on millions of people and reversed plans to ease restrictions over Christmas.
First, we will introduce new restrictions in the most affected areas, specifically those parts of London, the South East and the East of England, which are currently in Tier 3. These areas will enter a new Tier 4, which will be broadly equivalent to the national restrictions which were in place in England in November. That means residents in those areas must stay at home, apart from limited exemptions set out in law.
Australia has announced new restrictions for the Greater Sydney area in an attempt to contain a growing outbreak of COVID-19. The region has recorded 30 new cases, taking the cluster infections to 70. South Korea's new coronavirus cases spiked by more than 1,000 for the fifth straight day to hit a fresh record high. In the meantime, India's COVID-19 cases have surpassed the 10 million mark and the death toll topped 145,000.
In Pakistan, 80 people have lost their lives to COVID-19 over the past 24 hours. This takes the country's death toll to over 9,330. Health officials reported 2,615 new infections overnight. More than 40,000 active COVID-19 cases in the country remain. The health ministry says out of over 457,000 countrywide cases, more than 407,000 people have recovered. The ministry said over 204,000 cases have been detected in the province of Sindh, while the Punjab has reported nearly 131,000 cases so far. Counting is underway in Thailand's provincial elections to mark the first test of democracy since the 2019 general election. The elections in the country's 76 provinces are the first under Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha. The recently founded progressive movement is competing in 32 of the 76 provincial administration's organizations. It is facing strong opposition from political elites of the Hun Plim family, which has ruled the region for decades. Experts say that the power is concentrated in Bangkok, which leads to patronage flourishing at the expense of forward-thinking policy. The elections are being conducted amid strong anti-government protests in the country. 3 people have been killed after an abandoned bomb exploded in Ethiopia's capital, Addis Ababa. Local media said that the victims were homeless people. It said that the incident was not linked to any conflict between the rebels and the security forces in the Tigray region. Authorities have launched an investigation into the incident. In Chile, hundreds of anti-government demonstrators took to the streets of the capital, Santiago. Demonstrators are demanding reforms to pension, healthcare, and education systems. The protesters faced down police in riot gear and blasts from water cannons. The South American country has witnessed protests for over a year now, calling for an end to inequality. Last month, Chile voted in a referendum to rewrite its Pinochet-era constitution. A massive cloud of dust has been witnessed in the areas of central Argentina. The country's National Meteorology Service has given yellow and orange alerts for the dust storm. It has forecasted that the speed of the winds are reaching 80 kilometers per hour. Local media has reported that the strong tornado dust winds have blown off roofs and uprooted trees in the Santa Rosa region, but it said no damage was caused to the people or property. A giant panda, Ru Yi, in Moscow Zoo showed his impressive martial arts skills and defeated a snowman. The panda completely destroyed a snowman to earn his treats. The zoo workers say that the activity was held to boost the Christmas spirit and to entertain the panda. They placed carrots and branches into the snowman to give him a task before the meal. Despite cute looks, giant pandas possess formidable force, with their biting power being comparable to brown bears. Yi and his female friend Ding Ding were given to the Moscow Zoo by Chinese President Xi Jinping in April 2019. As the coronavirus pandemic has made people more aware about hygiene, a Japanese startup company has set up hand and smartphone washing stations in the streets of Tokyo to emphasize better hygiene. More in this report.
Shoppers wash their hands and sterilize their smartphones in the streets of Tokyo's Posh Ginza district as Water Corp set up 20 of its wash machines near the Posh Ginza stores to prevent the spread of coronavirus. The initiative with the district association aims to encourage shoppers to wash their hands.
To be able to wash your hands wherever you are on the city, we thought we had to realize this as soon as possible amid the impact of COVID-19. So we sped up the development.
The machines don't require connection to running water and don't use fresh and wastewater tanks. Instead, they recycle the water through a 3-stage process of membrane filtration, chlorine, and deep ultraviolet irradiation. On average, 20 liters of water provides around 500 washes, and the filters should be changed after 2000. The machine also cleans smartphones using 20 to 30 seconds of ultraviolet light exposure. Touching a dirty phone would negate hand wash effort.
I use smartphones all the time, but I was not conscious that I don't sterilize it enough. It was good that this machine reminds me that we have to keep smartphones clean.
Vota has now begun shipments within Japan and aims to expand internationally next year.
SpaceX has successfully launched its final mission of the year 2020. The Falcon 9 reusable rocket carried a spy satellite into space on a classified national security mission. The launch for the U.S. National Reconnaissance Office was originally scheduled for Thursday, but was delayed because of irregular pressure readings. The rocket's first stage booster was previously used in the launch of 2 SpaceX cargo resupply missions. The company says Falcon 9 is the world's first orbital-class reusable rocket. The coronavirus pandemic has limited traditional Christmas celebrations around the world. But in Egypt, a Batman, not Santa Claus, is distributing gifts among children to mark the holiday season. Let's have a look at the superhero.
"28-year-old Basim Rauf usually drives around his Cairo neighborhood in his custom-designed Batmobile, waving to passers-by and taking pictures with fellow fans. But this Christmas, with the coronavirus pandemic scaling back celebrations, Rauf has been handing out face masks to residents he finds along his usual route.
This new year, we do not need Santa Claus. We need a legend, a character known around the world as a hero. We need this character in the street to spread awareness. Gift giving this year should be masks and other materials with the aim of raising awareness.
Like many superfans across the world, Rauf had always dreamt of having his own Batmobile to drive around town. He says he often stops to allow others to take pictures of him and his customized vehicle.
Batman is a character whom many around the world grew up knowing it as a good guy who fights evil. Both old and young people like him, I too love Batman and always had a dream growing up that I find a car similar to Batman's car.
The world perhaps needs more such superheroes who can cheer people up in the testing time of the coronavirus pandemic.
And now for a short break. Stay with us. China's biggest chip maker, SMIC, says a U.S. trade blacklist would adversely impact its research and development. It said that the move would particularly hamper its 10-nanometer and more advanced chip technology. The chip maker said that it did not expect the United States' decision to have a major impact on its short-term operation and finances. The company added that it would communicate with the United States authorities and take necessary steps to reach a solution. Washington blacklisted over 60 Chinese firms, including SMIC and Beijing's drone maker DJI. Confederation of British Industry have expressed concerns over new COVID-19 restrictions. The business groups have called the new curbs as a real kick in the teeth for businesses.
In a statement, CBI's chief Matthew Fell said the move will hit businesses which were already struggling badly. He said the government must take a fresh look at how to support businesses through to the spring. Britain's car industry body chief Mike Hughes said the third shutdown comes at the worst possible time. He said the businesses are facing close-of-year challenges as well as uncertainty and upheaval from the Brexit transition period. The British Retail Consortium has also warned that the consequences of the new restrictions will be severe. Earlier, Prime Minister Boris Johnson announced a new Tier 4 level of lockdown in London and South East England.
Apple Corporation has temporarily shut all its 53 stores in California because of the resurge in the coronavirus cases. In a statement, the spokesperson said that they have closed 16 stores in the United Kingdom in the light of the new introduced restrictions. The company said due to the current COVID-19 conditions, they are taking the step with an abundance of caution. It said customers will still be able to pick up existing orders for the next few days. The corporation did not give any specific date for the reopening of the stores. And in the Premier League, Sheffield United have been denied their first win of the season when Brighton scored a late equalizer to earn a 1-1 draw at the Amex Arena. Sheffield United took the lead in the 63rd minute of the match, but Denny Welbeck of Brighton scored the equalizer in the 87th minute. Brighton stayed 16th in the standings, while Sheffield United remained rooted to the foot of the table with 2 points from 14 games. In cricket, New Zealand beat Pakistan by 9 wickets in the second T20 and also clinched the 3-match series 2-0. The hosts chased Pakistan's 164-run target in the last over. Tim Seifert scored 84 runs from the 63 balls, while Kane Williamson scored an impressive 57 runs from 42 balls. Fahim Ashraf was the only Pakistani bowler to pick up a wicket when he dismissed Martin Guptill. Earlier, the men in green had chosen to bat first against New Zealand by winning the toss. Mohammad Hafiz remained top scorer for Pakistan with unbeaten 99 runs. In another cricket news, the big quick from the ruler New South Wales, Josh Hazlewood, proved to be Australia's hero in Adelaide Test against India. Overshadowed by his fellow pacers, Hazlewood stepped to the limelight with a binding spell that humiliated the visitors. The right-arm medium-fast bowler bagged the most economical 5-wicket haul by an Australian bowler in 73 years. With 3 maidens in his 5-over spell, Hazlewood just conceded 8 runs. Together with Pat Cummins, Hazlewood wrapped up Indian batting lineup for 36, their lowest ever innings score. But a committed team man, the 29-year-old paid tribute to Cummins for taking the first 3 wickets.
I'm not too sure, to be honest. I think it was pretty similar to maybe Leeds. Looking back to the Ashes, we bowled them out for 60 odd, but yeah, I think it didn't change a great deal from the first innings. Probably just bowled a touch fuller, I guess, and maybe a touch straighter. But I thought Camo set the scene beautifully, and I sort of just followed suit. So yeah, but everything got nicked and everything went to hand. So one of those days.
Czech Esther Lideka beat Swiss Corinne Suter to claim her second career Alpine Ski World Cup victory in the first Super G discipline in France. The Czech finished inside the top 10 in downhill ahead of Suter. Defending champion Federica Bigorni came 0.35 seconds behind the third. Bigorni's Italian teammate Marta Bassino was the fourth and the overall World Cup leader. Petra Vihola finished 6th. In Spain, the all-extreme electric cars continued their testing on the dirt tracks of the Motorland Aragon. The 550 HP extreme vehicles are in preparation to start their inaugural session in March. The off-road series has several renowned drivers and team owners, including Sebastian Loeb driving for Lewis Hamilton's X44 team. The series aims to raise awareness about the climate change by racing in remote and harsh environments. It features battery-powered 550 HP Odyssey 21 all-wheel drive SUVs built to handle severe off-roading.
I didn't really know what to expect from it because it's completely a new concept about everything. Sharing the car with a girl, trying to bring some benefit for the ecology, driving an electric car in a new concept, a new style of race. I didn't really know, but finally it looked interesting.
And Charlie still produced some notable moments.
I've seen this, all along. Probably not, a lot of people have, but a lot of the shots that he's hit, I've seen it back home at medalists in this entire year, this entire pandemic. He's hit these shots, and the junior events he's played in, he's hit a lot of these, and it's just a matter of it. I'm stringing these out for 3.5 hours. It's it's a totally different deal.
It's now time to take a look at the weather around the world. For the latest news updates, you can follow us on our social media at Indus.News.